my first ever visit to Croatia, flying from Manchester, and only just over 2 hours 15 minutes flying time. The first thing you see on the descent are the beautiful Croatian islands off the Dalmatian coast in the Adriatic. Similar to the Greek islands in that all are not inhabited, but much closer together and ideal for an island hopping adventure. Once you arrive at Split Airport, which is about 30 kilometres from the town of Split, you can jump on the shuttle bus at the airport, pay the driver in kunas or euros, the equivalent of less than £5, and he takes you directly to the bus station next to the port in the old town of Split. No stopping en route, a direct service every 30 minutes or so, and you don't need to book in advance. There's quite a lot happening around the harbour, mainly to do with tourists and boat trips, but also the daily commute by catamaran to the islands. This is the end point, time to get off the bus at the bus station and walk to my accommodation, just a short 10 minutes away along the waterfront. I arrived on the 7th of May, and this day is celebrated with a feast day each year to Split's patron saint, Saint Domnius. The river is lined with market stalls selling local produce and items made from wood, a tradition here in Split. Religious live music can be heard along the river from loudspeakers overhead, relaying the church service at the far end under the canopy. The town turns out for a big procession, and there are various games and prizes, as well as a ceremony in Split's Cathedral of St. Domnius. As I approach the far end of the river, the ongoing church service can be easily seen and heard. All this time I was still carrying my rucksack with 2 weeks' clothing tucked neatly inside on my back, and as it was approaching lunchtime I stopped off at Toto's burger restaurant before walking the last few metres to my accommodation. I chose to stay in a small guest house called Fiaca, right in the centre of the old town of Split, down a narrow street, once a family home and now converted by the family into rooms to rent, spotlessly clean and still owned and managed by the same family, and very, very helpful. My room had a balcony overlooking a small courtyard, a theatre, cafes and bars, all in close proximity, but in a quiet location because it faced the courtyard. So peaceful, but yet in a very busy tourist area. Anyway, today is such a special day in Split. It was time to head back towards the river, through the old town, and continue to admire the events brought together because of the celebration to St. Domnius Day, May the 7th. This is Republic Square, and one of the most beautiful squares in Split. This beautiful neo-Renaissance square decorated on three sides with columns and arched entrances, is open to the sea on the fourth side. Heading through the piazza, known as the People's Square, centrally located and surrounded by stunning buildings, and back towards the sea, towards the live music. Gone from the canopy is the religious ceremony, to be replaced by these singers.
Ja to ljubene smisla, ako ne voliš me život poresta. Živi na kantu, plava ovajmo slike. Mali deo, mali druga traži, ja sam u garaži, ja si ti. Kad me druga traži, ja sam u garaži, ti si ti. I na kantu, glava u balunu, ti si ti. Mala moja mama, lipa moja mama, mala moja mama, lipa moja mama. Ajde Nikola, daj malo snage.
The red building to the left, behind the singers, is the Republic Square. The street ahead leads to the People's Square, and to the right is the Riva, or waterfront. This is backed by the Diocletian's Palace. Just further along the river is this small square known locally as Fruit Square. In front of the Baroque Palace, Milesi, stands the statue of Marko Marulić, father of the Croatian literature from the 15th century. On the west side rises the octagonal tower, built by the Venetians, who feared the local revolts and the Turkish raids. This underground entrance, lined with souvenir shops, comes from the Riva and is the most popular way into the palace. The symbol of Split Town is the magnificent cathedral with its bell tower, built in the 13th century and in honour of St Domnius, and recently featured in a film set for Game of Thrones. These two characters, who both spoke brilliant English, are quite happy to talk to the tourists, and of course then there are the obligatory selfies, which I just couldn't resist the opportunity. This is in front of the cathedral and in the Paris-style square, the most popular amongst Split attractions, surrounded by columns that is the centre of cultural life in Split. There are three temples at the Paris-style, dedicated to Jupiter, Venus and Cybele.
ti kaže, ma ne, iako ima stvari, moram popiti
There are 4 gates that lead into the Diocletian's palace. Meanwhile, the live music continues on the river. As the light begins to fade, I reach the end of a long first day in Split. It's time for a beer at Toto's, just off the river, but still overlooking the harbour. On top of Toto's building is a live webcam, and I use the image it provided for the firework display across the harbour. Opposite one of the entrances to the Diocletian's palace is this large statue of Gregory, Bishop of Nin. The 8.5 metre, 28 foot tall structure is a heavily trafficked tourist site in the town, which the toe of the statue shows. Rubbing the statue's toes is said to bring good luck. The toe has been worn smooth and shiny as a result. The statue was originally erected in the Paris style of the Diocletian's palace in 1929, but moved by Italian occupying forces outside the city in 1941. In 1954 it was re-erected in the present location just outside the Golden Gate of the palace. The sign tells you about the sculpture, and the black and white photograph shows the original location in the Paris style. Well, today I'm in Split in Croatia. I'm currently about to walk around the Diocletian's palace. I believe it's absolutely fabulous, and I'm really going to. Well, I arrived in Split yesterday. Very hot, very busy. Today I'm walking around all the popular tourist sites, and at the moment I'm at the Diocletian Palace. Lots and lots of things to see here, and as you can tell from the background, it's really popular with the tourists. These narrow streets have featured in various episodes of Game of Thrones. Through the rich and turbulent history of Split, many noble families and distinguished citizens built their residences in what we know today as the historical centre. Since they were built, some of them were turned into luxury apartments, like in Grisogano, or museums, shops and even supermarkets. Unfortunately, there are those also neglected and deserted. What is important, though, is that all of them are excellent examples of architectural styles over centuries in Split. Here is a reminder through the open windows that you are still above the river, inside the Diocletian's palace, and everywhere you go is the iconic bell tower. What is important, though, is that all of these are excellent examples of architecture styles over centuries in Split. It's also a nice alternative way of Split sightseeing. While walking from one to another, you can see all the other important landmarks, the one that the tourists visit and the one that the tourists pay to visit. The Romanesque bell tower was constructed between the 13th and 16th century and reconstructed in 1908 after it collapsed. For those eager to climb up for a 360-degree view over the old rooftops, you'll need a head for heights as the steep stone stairs quickly give way to flimsy metal ones suspended over an internal void. The palace vestibule was intended as a place to greet visitors before entering into the palace. It has an open-air oculus, which is Latin and means eye, and is intended to show the path from earth to heaven. Today, the a cappella group of friends are performing traditional clapper Dalmatian singing. Next to the palace vestibule, and I'm back into the peristyle. The following day it was time to take a walk down to the nearest beach, and another opportunity to show how easy it is to travel around Croatia using Split as the base. The bus station with buses to anywhere in Croatia is located next to the ferry terminal, with ferries not only to the ports along the Dalmatian coast, but also to the islands and across to Italy. This is Split's local beach, a 15-minute walk from the old town, and is used by locals and tourists alike. Very popular and I believe very busy in the high season. The large concrete section is used for sunbathing mainly, with steps down to a shallow sandy beach. Further along is the more traditional type beach with beach bars. Time for a beer or two, take in the scenery and relax. So far the weather in early May has been superb, great to explore on foot as everything you could want on holiday is nearby. But the next day the weather changed to rain and overcast, but still warm. The Riva looked a totally different place, and so it was time to explore the Marianne. The Marianne is the hill that overlooks the city, impressive and in harmony with nature and urbanisation. On one side the densely populated, tourist-orientated city in all its glory, and on the other a peninsula of almost pristine nature. The very fact that we climb up to Marianne directly from the beautiful and world-renowned waterfront of Split, known as the Riva, gives visitors like myself an opportunity to experience the beauty of this park, cum forest, with its freshness of air and stunning view of the city of Split and nearby islands from several unique lookout points. I had read that before setting out that if I walked further enough along this track I would find some small churches and a Renaissance hermitage built in the mid-15th century into the rock formation.
Well, today it's just raining slightly. You could say it's spitting in Split. So I've gone for a walk up the Margin Hill. Not very high, 1,780 metres in height. I'm probably getting near the top and stumbled across this small church that was erected to St Nicholas in the 13th century.
When this church was built in the 13th century, the views would be very similar out to sea, except for the cruise liners, of course.
Well, we're still on the Margin Hill. Beautiful, beautiful walk. So glad it's threatening rain because it's kept everybody else away. So nice and quiet, enjoying the bird song, a bit of wildlife occasionally, but fantastic walk, and some of the views through these trees, absolutely stunning.
On the way back down, past the old Jewish cemetery, and time for coffee and cake, whilst taking one last chance to admire the view. The old Jewish cemetery of Split was established in 1573. There are about 700 graves with readable tombstones from the 18th century. The last burial took place in 1945 when it was closed and protected as a monument. Today's walk began and ended at the Church of St Francis at the western end of Split's waterfront. Anyway, after a long hard day, it's time to seek some refreshment. In the old town there are lots of small bars, this one serving dark beer, which reminded me of a pint of mild back in my younger days in Lancashire. And as always in the old town, you'll find a bar with some live music. However, if it's something more substantial you want to eat, then it's back down to the Riva. Lots of upmarket restaurants, outstanding views out to sea, spend some time people watching, just relax, just take your time, and the best coffee and cake restaurants in town. The following morning I made an early start from my accommodation, as just round the corner and only about 50 metres away was this really nice eatery and bistro. I walked past the entrance many times and seen the sign for full English breakfast, so I started my day here. My plan for the day was to walk through the western end of the Riva, through the harbour, and then take the coastal path around the Margin Hill. Some of the larger boats are for hire by the week and come with 4 bedrooms, en suite and a skipper to take you anywhere you desire. Just past the harbour is the Sustipan, named after a middle-aged monastery of St Stephen. Now a park with this classicistic gloriette, the only remaining monument to what was once the resting place and cemetery to the Croatian kings. Sustipan became Split's first cemetery, only to be demolished by the communist authorities, regardless of the emotional connection that the citizens of Split had for this location and the extraordinary artistic value of the local tombs. From here you get to see views of the Hermitage Caves and ruins on the western slopes of the Marianne. Walking further along the coastal path, and now just about as far as you can go westerly around the Marianne Hill, it was time to stop at this beach bar, take in the view before returning the same route back to the Riva in time for the B2B run. A beautiful place in a stunning location. The park overlooks the deep sea and Croatian islands. The first B2B run race to be held in Split was only a few years ago, and it attracted more than 200 runners in 22 teams from various Croatian companies who ran this 5-kilometre race. It was organised to promote socialising through sport after work. The race, designed exclusively for the business community, ran in teams to defend the colours of their teams and better connect with colleagues outside their work environment. This year there was much larger turnout and a greater atmosphere and more competitive in spirit. This event can only become more popular because of the beauty of the run through Split streets and ending on the iconic Riva, and it has grown to become the most important business event over the last 3 years. I have to say that I've been totally impressed with the city of Split. So much to do and see, and to spend only a few days here was totally inadequate. I'm sure I will be back to Croatia, and I will use Split as my base. Whilst the Riva is the place to be seen and observed, to dress to impress, there is so much more to enjoy. For people interested in history, the Riva has a couple of scale models of the old city and the Diocletian's palace, as it would have been in the year 305 AD.
Parce que là, c'est comme si ça n'existe plus.
Part of Croatian culture seems to be singing in the streets at outside. I've already come across the more organised clapper traditional singing, the bar singers and musicians, and now what appears to be more unorganised street singing amongst a group of friends, sitting on a bench on the seafront harbour side of Split, just enjoying the evening, enjoying a bit of music, and basically just enjoying themselves. three singing. Thanks for watching. If you would like notifications when I create a new travel vlog, please subscribe. Thank you.